You've probably heard a lot of talk about Marxists and communists a lot in the news recently, whether that's through government officials or social media influencers saying how scary it is.
We are now in the process of defeating the radical left, the Marxists.
They can call themselves anti-capitalist or communist or Marxist. It is a poisonous resentment.
But have you ever actually explored what Marxism is? Marxism is a theory of sociology with branches in economics, history, other disciplines, by its very nature. Its main tools as a science of sociology are historical materialism and dialectical materialism. What do they mean? I'm going to make a couple videos explaining the core concepts. Historical materialism basically states that rather than culture or ideas by some people being the driving force behind changes historically, that actually economic and material conditions, they shape it. Some concepts within that are things like the economic base. That's the foundation of society. It's made up of the means of production, things like tools, factories, land, rivers, that kind of thing, and the relations of production, work roles, and ownership of property, for example. There's also something called the superstructure. Social institutions are built upon the economic base, things like governments, laws, religions, culture. I think a really clear example of this in history is if you look at Bronze Age settlements popping up in England. They're all based around rivers, which is the means of production for those people. You get your water so you can drink and not die, and your food from rivers, things like birds, fish. You get those economic factors. Food is something that you can trade with after all. They're much easier to get at a river than, say, living in the middle of dry heathland. From there, villages build up. A culture of fishing springs up, using locally found words and such to build with. And that in turn becomes a social thing. You get basket weaving culture, that kind of thing. Working together means safety. Government and laws with the tribes that have popped up now start happening. That develops further with farming around those water settlements. Things gain complexity from there, as you can see. Even religion, gods of natural elements pop up that govern the things the means of production require. Things like rainfall, so storm gods. Things like hunting gods that give you good luck on your ability to find animals to slaughter, that sort of thing. Religion also helps make things easier, sort of a comfort. So when things aren't going well, let's say there's a drought, instead of the society breaking up and everyone going their opposite directions, people come together. Because, if we had only prayed harder or offered a sacrifice or something, and the gods wouldn't have punished us, we would have had better rainfall, our plants would have grown. It gives them that peace of mind knowing that actually things can be easier if you just are better at your religion. The world can be a bit of a scary place, and, we need that as what Karl Marx called an opiate of the people. Within historical materialism, there's stages of historical change. Class struggle. History moves forward to new stages through the current equilibrium being broken, a disequilibrium coming up, due to conflict between different classes, i.e. the royal class and the bourgeoisie, because the bourgeoisie feel, it's their peasants on their land that are creating the value, so why should they have to pay so much tax to the crown? That kind of thing. You see kings overthrown for that sort of thing in the past. In England, again, is a great example. A new equilibrium is then made where conditions are better for a larger proportion of people within that society. And that happens via violent upheaval. Modes of production. Societies go through economic stages from primitive communism, ancient slavery, looking at you, Spartans, to feudalism, mercantilism along the way, out of the royalty being in charge of everything. Early stage capitalism, which was founded in the transatlantic slave trade. That ship-based trade really, once we had merchant ships out there, that really sowed the seeds for capitalism to be able to happen, because whilst we had imperialism and colonialism before that, this was really where the fires got stoked on it. And those merchants saw a way to exploit one land to bring value back to another. And then from there, full-blown capitalism. Future transitions. Marx saw that through those historical examples, capitalism itself would also create contradictions and thus conflicts between classes, because the bourgeois or owning class would reap the majority of the benefit of work done by workers, and that's just by the sheer dint of owning the machines, and not through any labour, which he posited would lead to the workers wanting to take control via upheaval of those means of producing things. That then builds socialism, with joint ownership of the means of production by the working class, and down the line, eventually, a classless communist society. You could hit a like, share this. I'll be covering dialectical materialism next.